Welcome to Happening Around the City on NSTV. I am Ada Okafo, and today we have another insightful guest in the studio whose name is Comrade Bankole Solomon. Comrade Bankole Solomon is a human rights activist. Not just that, he is the founder of a Tolabe of Fame on OGBC 90.5 FM. He is also the founder of People Against Corruption and Injustice and the state chairman of coalitions of civil society pro-democracy activists in Ogun State. Nice to have you with us today in the studio.
Thank you, Ada. How are you?
I'm good. Hope you are too.
Well, you are coping.
All right. Now, the new Cybercrime Act 2025 has officially been passed into law by the National Assembly under the leadership of the Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Today, we are here to discuss what this means for the average Nigerian and the nation at large. But before we do that, it's important to note that the new Cybercrime Act is not a new development. It was first implemented in 2014 and amended in 2024. However, cybercrime still persisted. An article by Vanguard newspaper reported that between 2017 and 2023, Nigerian financial institutions, including commercial banks, fintech companies, and network service providers, were reported to have suffered losses exceeding 1.1 trillion naira due to various cyber threats such as ransomware, malware attacks, and hacking. In the same vein, it was reported by a top official at CyberVerdant, a renowned global cybersecurity company, that in 2024, Nigeria's financial sector faced an unprecedented wave of attack that exposed critical vulnerabilities, letting cyber criminals go away with 3.4 billion naira in net. Now, considering all these factors, sir, would you say it was important for the new Cybercrime Act 2025 to come into play? And how is it going to be any different? Because this is not the first time we're having this act.
Well, thank you for having me once again. Good morning, everyone. Well, we appreciate the new development, despite the fact that we have some reservations. What is cybercrime? It's what we need. Cybercrime is crime against personality, against man, against property, against a lot of things that have been carried out by the advent of either Facebook, either social medias, and what have you. Of course, it's a record development, but there are some gray areas that we think for us to deepen democracy, that areas look at it. Kind of fraud, like you rightly said, before social media, there have been seen fraud has been there time immemorial. When you talk of stealing, either in the banking sector, either in the economic sector, before we have social media, we've been having that. But there are some areas that people like us who are comrades are not comfortable with, because those areas is against the fundamental rights
Can you
of
mention
the
some of
masses.
these areas?
Of course, beyond the area that, when you talk of cybercrime, it's in three ways: either against people, either against property, either against government. But the beauty of democracy is you must have your voice. And some section of this cybercrime act, which we believe that Mr. President will not assented to in some gray areas, which means you and I cannot be able to say one or two things that is contrary to what government stands for. And there's some ambiguity, like I can't take somebody's phone. If you are my wife, who is that somebody? Those areas must be clearly stated. If you are my son and I'm suspecting you are doing one thing or the other that is contrary to my beliefs and values, I can check your phone. So the ambiguity must be spelled out so as government will not be able to use it to take our rights or fundamental rights or freedom of speech from us. That's why we said law must not be ambiguous. It must be clearly stated what it attracts. A good example, like what you just said now, hacking is hacking. If I say hacking is a crime, but I think that I must hack my son phone that is in school, the question now I'm asking, will I be liable or culpable for doing that? at the expense of saving or curbing excesses of my son. Again, when you look at the provisions of the Act, there are some areas that we know will not allow us to have our voice against the government. And there's nowhere it is written in the Constitution International amended that I cannot condemn, that I cannot criticize, that I cannot say something against government that is affecting my day-to-day life. And like I told people somewhere, I don't expect something better from the Senate.
What do you mean by that?
Because this is the weakest of all Senate we've ever had in this country. There's something they cannot pass in that place. That is vindictive law to close some of us of not talking, and we are ready to go to jail.
So you are saying this is affecting freedom of speech, or is
Of
going
course,
to affect?
it's affecting it already. Because when you look at the provision, when you look at it, that's what they are sentenced to. So I cannot call it law by now. It's not a full act now. This has been on before 2014, but it was partially passed 2015. How you call it, Crime Act, Exhibition and Denial Act of 2015. But the new provision that has approved now, look at what is happening to someone like Showore. Look at what's happening to human rights people, that we have to say this, and they say, no, police are already using it against us. Any small thing, police will say, this is cybercrime, this is cybercrime, this is cybercrime. And when your voice is not being allowed to say your nonsense, democracy is at danger. So that is why I say that if you have to agree to this law, of course nobody is interested in the area of hacking. I'm not happy with it. I've lost some amount of money for these criminals. But for the fact that we are in democratic setting, there are some things, there's no law in the whole world that can curb criminality. But what makes you to enjoy democracy is your ability to be able to say your nonsense, is your ability to ask government on one or two things. And if you are being afraid or you are being timid because of those laws, I'm sorry, freedom of speech will be threatened. So I'm saying that some areas must be expunged. It must be clearly stated. Because if it's not, yes, if somebody has hacked into government information, of course I will not clap for that person. I won't clap for somebody who has used social media, either Twitter, what have you, to lead into terrorism. Of course not. But my question is this: they are always want to get this thing done. But have you forgotten, my dear sister, that we are still having kidnapping in this country? That there are many people are being kidnapped. They are using the same social media to collect money. They are using the same social media to video the victims, yet nothing is being done. But they are only interested in what I will say and what I will say, and somebody will now cite a particular section of the Constitution that have abridged it, and police will come, and before you know it, because they don't like my face, and I'll be imprisoned. So if that area could be used, because like we said, when I saw the sections, I know some of us will go back to jail. We've been to jail, we go back to jail, because nothing, I said nothing can stop us of saying our mind, irrespective of the law on the land. But because democracy is for everybody, and we must all enjoy it. We try to mesmerize crimes and criminality in the name of governance. Yes, of course, I'm a Nigerian. I'm a Pan-Africanist. We will never encourage somebody somewhere to say things that will take ethnic A against ethnic B. But listen to our political leaders during campaign. Listen to what they are saying. Are we not in this country when the former president was campaigning and said, balloon will soak with blood? Are we not in this country when the former governor of Kaduna, El-Rufai, when he was saying a lot of blasphemous things against Christianity? But nobody will see that. So they want to use this to guide us so that we will not be able to talk. There's no problem with average man on the street. I buy my garri from Igbo boy. I eat suya from Hausa man. I don't know the difference between Hausa and Yoruba. It's when they want to divide us, they are not putting ethnicity and say what A has said, what B has said. Elections coming, campaign is coming. You are going to hear a lot of things, but to them, they will tell you those are electoral talk. But when you and I talk, you will now look at the section of the constitution and say, we violated it, we've done this, we've done that. How can somebody like Showore ask the federal government to respect the law of the land and is being charged for terrorism?
Okay, welcome back. We still have Comrade Bankole Solomon in the studio with us today discussing the topic. We're talking about life imprisonment sentence for any comments that or statement that incites ethnic violence, tribal conflict. Would you say this specification in the act would put an end to tribalism in Nigeria, or at least reduce it to the barest minimum?
Like I said, I still want to repeat it. Some of the section of this Cyber Act Crime Act is ambiguous. How do you define such vowel languages that could lead to such scenario you just painted?
What if it's explicitly stated, the person explicitly something that is obviously tribalistic?
Let him have his way in court. Court is there for everybody. But what I'm saying is that this law, Nigerian law, is so strong that I can only catch mosquito and so loose that I cannot catch lizard. When we are talking of those who are dividing us, either on ethnicity or religion basis on any issue, these are the so-called leaders. It's not you and I. So if you want this law against what you've just said, because I don't want to call it law, we are still expecting President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to have a rethink, because he says he's a Democrat. And we know things that Tinubu have said, that if this law has been in place there, it should have been in prison as well. So what we are saying now is that nobody wants a country that will divide against itself. Nobody wants it. But the question is, what is the main motive behind this law? You make me laugh. Let us assume for this argument, for this discussion, that it will come it. Are we not in this country that we know that vote buying is a crime? Can you show me an individual, a politician that has been jailed of vote buying? Yesterday, I was watching the preview of. We saw what was happening. It was open. Security guys are the ones that go this way, collect money, and they are counting the money there. When we are talking of the law is not the respect of anybody. Law should be all embracing. But what we have in this country, we have law for the poor and law for the elite. And I'm sure by the time this law, the Cybercrime Act, when it's successfully put in place, you and I will be the victim. Because the law is targeted as poor people. That's why the country, you can see a man who is hungry, who has gone to Tamak there, who has gone to Lafarge there to steal the area of 15 naira, is being in jail. And you see a man eating 500 million. He said, go to court. Go and meet us in court, because they are the owner of the court. So it's quite unfortunate that laws are meant to cushion their excesses, but to punish our voices.
So in your opinion, what can be done to make this law all-encompassing?
There's no law that can be all-encompassing. Democracy is for the good, for the bad, and for the only thing that you should be the focus of the government is good governance, and good governance can come. I don't know, they call some boys Yahoo. I said, what is Yahoo? What is Yahoo? Is intellectual way of showing their aggression against good bad economy. A dullard can't do it. I have some boys, I have some younger ones who have gone to school with good brain and nothing to do. And the mouth must eat. Go to police station, you see bail is free. Is bail free in Nigeria? It is conspicuously written bail is free. Is it free? Can you go to police cell without paying money? So who does the arrest of those ones? We need to face a lot of things. Such that act must not be accepted to by Mr. President. Some graders must be removed so that we can put them into their toes. It's quite unfortunate to say this, my dear sister. For 3, 4, or 5 weeks ago, Showore protested for the interest of the police. The following week, he was arrested by the same police, beaten, and then put in cell. Today now, he's now, look at our guy here now with glasses. Now it's not a crime in Nigeria to Nigerian policeman now to put on glasses. They believe you want to record them. You want to get to police station, somebody will ask you, drop your phone. Where it is written, I should drop my phone. You want to get to FCC, drop your phone. Where it is written in the law.
You are saying there's been a lot of violation
of course. So the law is targeting at us. Some areas, some gray areas, not everything, but some area must be looked at so that all of us, the poorest, the richest, the educated, the literate, should have their voice and say their things. And when you know it has been done, I should not be criminalized. If I say something against you, either as a slander or in a defamatory way, go to court. Let me have my day in court in a civil matter.
This leads me to ask, if those areas are removed, like you said, what authorities are in place to ensure that people comply with these laws and things go according to the way it's supposed to go, not in another direction?
It is not possible. Even law, our creator, who gave us 12 laws in the Bible, we violate it. There's no law that can curb criminality. All what we need is to have good implementation to get it done, and some gray areas should be removed so that we can get the gain of democracy.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Let's go listen to this quick message, and when we come back, we'll still have Comrade Bankole Solomon. All right, welcome back. We still have Comrade Bankole Solomon in the studio with us today, discussing the topic, the new Cybercrime Act 2025, what to expect. Now, sir, if I may ask on a final note, what does this act look like for journalists and people that basically the online space is their space?
Well, where government lies, we call it propaganda. That law is against fundamental objective of journalism, of what, where, who, how. And we've said it separately. If you want to enjoy democracy in this country, you must have vibrant journalism. You must have guys with courage. Even during military regime, it was not as bad as this. And I do tell people one thing. When I talk of democracy, that government has done something, it's not about building of houses. The greatest infrastructure in this country were given to us by military dictatorship. Mention UI, mention this, mention that. These are what we gain from the military dictatorship. So democracy is the voice, and the voice of people is the journalist and journalism. But that law has gauged them because it will be used against them. But when they want to pass out their lies, they will tell you it's propaganda. And I'm sure for us to have this, I want NUJ to challenge that law.
That's the National Union of Journalists.
Yes, they should challenge the law, and then let's take that law to open court. How do you define false information? If you have to call AIT, something is happening, it's also place, and they have to get there, that is not happening. Are they liable? All those things must be subjected to scrutiny, must be subjected to fairness, rule of law, and of course democratic setting, so that journalists will not be the scapegoat of these laws.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we just listened to Comrade Bankole Solomon in the studio today. We discussed the topic, the new Cybercrime Act 2025, what to expect. Do follow us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at NSTV Lagos. And you can also check us out on GoTV at channel 316. I am Ada Okafor. You stay